Hello, I'm Gemma and this is Non-Fic Books, and today I'm going to do a wrap-up of the books that I read in the month of June. The first one is She-Wolves by Helen Castor, The Women Who Ruled England Before Elizabeth, and this is looking at 4 women, Matilda, Eleanor of Aquitaine, Margaret of Anjou and Isabella of France, I believe, yep. And it's really just a history about the 4 women in the early medieval period who either attempted to rule through their own rights or ruled through other people. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really well written, really detailed as well, because I do like my history books to be not history light. I much prefer a good in-depth sort of book. And Helen Castor is one of my favourite authors for popular history, but that is high quality. And I'd really recommend this book. All 4 of the women are fascinating characters. I personally have a bit of a thing for Eleanor of Aquitaine, so I couldn't not pick this book up. But I'm really looking forward to rereading Helen Castor's Blood and Roses and then to read her Joan of Arc book, because if this is anything to go by, you'll be seeing her and I'll be recommending her a lot in the coming months. The next book is John Lewis-Stempel's Meadowland, The Private Life of an English Field. This won the Thwaites Wainwright Prize for British travel and nature writing, I believe it is. And I really didn't like this book, not at all. It's following the sort of life of a farmer and his land, about 40 acres or so I think it is, for 1 year. It attempts to write lyrically, but to me it failed. Obviously it won the prize, so a lot of other people do think it succeeded, but I didn't really like it at all, and the way he quotes a lot of poets throughout it really just highlighted how poor I found his writing in comparison to wonderful poets. So I wouldn't be recommending this book, which is a shame because A, it's gorgeous, and B, with winning that prize, I really did think it would be something I was going to pick up. And because I really like nature and travel writing, I always go through the Thwaites Wainwright shortlist and have a look for any books that really appeal. And this was another one of those, and that's the William Atkins, The Moor. And this is his exploration of moors from the south of England up to the border with Scotland, and this is lyrical. The writing is beautiful. It's both of this book and Meadowland is a sort of slow literature. There's no fast paced, there's not a point. You wouldn't be able to sum up in 2 lines what this book is saying, but it explores how people relate to the moors, his experience of the moors through walking them, and a bit of history and the people he meets. And this is one of the best books, tied with Helen Castor's She-Wolves, that I've read this year. So this month's been pretty good for writing, and I'd highly recommend this book if you're interested in moorland or slightly more barren landscapes. Really recommend this book, beautifully written. And then the next one I'll be very brief about because I have done a full review on it that I will link down below, and that's Jane Robinson's A Force to be Reckoned With, A History of the Women's Institute. A really nice little introductory book, very short, about the history of the WI. I'm going to be looking for more in-depth books because this very much is a history light, but it's well written, if a bit too chatty for me personally. And then my last non-fiction book that I've read this month is Thomas Penn's Winter King, The Dawn of Tudor England. And this is a history of the rise of the Tudors and Henry VII, and specifically looking at the last 10 years of his reign. It's really well written, and again, it's a really in-depth. I believe this is based on Thomas Penn's PhD, but just a bit more fleshed out. And it's really gripping, really well written. My only slight problem with it is that he does ignore the women in Henry VII's life, which Margaret Beaufort was just too important to ignore and played too big of a role, so that would be my one criticism on this. And I personally would have liked to have a bit more information about Catherine of Aragon, because she played a very large role, and so I found some of the men who were involved to the same extent you were given a lot more history and background to them, and I thought it just seemed, for a modern book, this was published in 2009, I believe, or 2011. Just have a quick look. 2011. It could have done with that. It's still really, really good. Highly recommend this book if you're interested in the Tudors and you want something that's really worthwhile getting your teeth into. And then, because I have been asked, do I only just read non-fiction? The answer is no. But because I do read a lot of non-fiction, the fiction I read tends to be a little bit lighter. So this month I've read 4 books, 3 of which are cosy mysteries and one's a chick lit. And the chick lit is Cathy Woodman's Must Be Love, which is the second book in her St. Talman, I think it is, series. Very sweet, romance, countryside setting. Nothing more to say. Would recommend the whole series. It's adorable, but it's not going to push you. And then the next 2 are by Rebecca Tope, and it's a Cotswold Ordeal, and a Cotswold Killing. And these are the first 2 in the Thea Osborne Cotswold Mystery series. And again, really sweet. It's very obvious what's going to happen, but I didn't know who the murderers were, and I very much enjoyed it, and I've picked up the 3rd one to read next month. And then finally, Death of a Prankster by MC Beaton. I adore MC Beaton, and this is one of the Hamish Macbeth series. I think it's about book 7. I love these books. They're really, really short, fly through with them in a couple of hours, but they're wonderful little mysteries and murders set in Highland Scotland with just a very adorable detective. So those are the books that I've read this month. If you have any questions about them, please do leave them down below, and hopefully I'll see you in a video soon. Bye!